you learn a hell of a lot more from your losses than you ever learn from your wins.
Yep. I would have liked Australia just to be a little bit more urgent with the bat.
And I don't see how Khawaja gets in Hobart.
Oh, hello and welcome to episode 4 of Outside the Rope, where we have a look at the test that's just gone in cricket. That's the SCG, and we'll also preview the upcoming final test match of the Ashes series in Hobart starting on Friday. Alongside me, I have former Australian captain and Channel 9 commentator Ian Chappell. Chaps, the SCG, it was a draw at the end of the day. A fair result, or a result that probably flattered England a little bit?
Oh, I think it definitely flattered England. There's no doubt that Australia were the better side. The fact that they couldn't finish it off sort of resembles the season before, but no doubt that England was struggling.
And what did you make of the Australian performance, and particularly the batting? We saw Usman Khawaja come into the side, bat at number 5, make twin hundreds, a terrific performance. What did you make of his performance and the Australian batting in particular throughout the Test match?
Well, I thought he was easily the most assured Australian. And I don't know whether it's easy or difficult coming in for your first Test match, but he liked the pitch. He's got an affinity for the SCG, and as I say, he looked very calm, which some of the other players didn't, but easily the most assured. But the Australian batsmen really have done, throughout the series, they've done what they've had to do. They've fought hard during the tough times, and they've been able to basically get through the tough times, whereas England can't. They've got Joe Root in the latter stages. Ben Stokes has played well. I thought that Crawley looked really good. But in essence, England haven't been able to get through the tough periods, and that's where Australia have been superior. Just
on Usman Khawaja, I think you and I sat here a week ago and we thought, well, they're going to play Khawaja. They have to play him because of Travis Head COVID infection. But we were a bit worried about Khawaja because he's had a number of opportunities to come into the Australian side. Has he improved that much as a player since last time he played, or was it just indicative of how England are playing that he was able to thrive?
Mostly indicative of England, I think. As you get older, you lose some of your physical ability, but your mental ability probably improves. And he's had enough seasons now at Sheffield Shield level. He knows how to make runs, and he, as I say, has a liking for the SCG. People are talking about promoting him to open. I think that's too much of an ask for him. And I think you've got to head forward in the opening position. Now, whether that's Marcus Harris, I happen to think that Renshaw's a better player than Harris, and that's where I'd be going if you need another opener. To me, Khawaja's fighting with Head at number 5, and Head was dead unlucky. I don't think you can leave him out from Hobart because he hadn't done anything to be left out. What Khawaja has done, and you can do no more than keep putting your name forward. He's put his name forward for the future tours of Asia. Do they want to pick Green with his fast bowling in Asia? His batting yet is not, he hasn't satisfied the number 6 position. So that's a position that's open for Khawaja, and I see him fighting for that spot. Hobart, people will say, oh, you can't drop him. But that's what a selector's job is. He's got to make tough decisions, and I don't see how Khawaja gets in Hobart.
So you've got Harris staying in the side, even though you'd probably have Renshaw if you had that opportunity, but it doesn't seem we're going to see Renshaw at Hobart. We're going to see probably Harris or Khawaja at the top of the order, and you've got Harris in.
Yeah, well, I think where I think Renshaw was hard done by, to me, you've got to drop a guy on bad test form. If they're a test player, you've got to drop him on bad test form. He hadn't shown that. His form in first-class cricket was a struggle, undoubtedly, no problem. But I think until he failed at test level, you couldn't drop him on poor Shield form. They did. Now he's got to fight his way back. Now, do they consider him to be an opener, or do they consider him to be a middle order batsman? In my book, he's an opening proposition.
Okay. Moving on, as you said right off the bat, it was probably a flattering result for England that they got away with the draw. So it's 3-0. Australia is still in a great position, obviously, that they've got, in a way, a free test match because they're up 3-0 in the series. What did you make of Pat Cummins in the last test match? I thought on day 5 he captained the side and marshalled the troops very well, but did they go too long on the night of day 4, Australia, with their batting in the second innings?
You can always find a fault with a captain, and I mean, captaincy is very much a subjective thing. You look at it, you see the situation, and you react accordingly. Now, whether he batted too long, my query would be more along the lines of who's making the decision. Is it a combined thing? Because, you know, captaincy, it can be a tough job, and I think you've got to decide, this is how long I want to give the bowlers to get the 10 wickets. And don't be swayed by... Now, I would listen to some senior players, but, you know, blokes who are off the field, I'm not sure why I'm listening to them, because they're not out there. And it's your vice captain and your senior players who are out there, they're fighting, they know what it's like. So that would be my only query. Is Pat making the decision? If he is, then that's fine. Now, you can query it. You know, anyone who is not inspired by Pat Cummins is a fool, because he's easily the most inspiring player in that Australian side. People who were querying his, his credentials as a captain don't know anything about the game, because you've got, I mean, take Imran Khan's comment. He said, if you're going to be a good cricket captain, you've got to understand bowling. Well, who's going to understand bowling better than Pat Cummins? Because he is a bloody bowler. And, yeah, I think he's done a terrific job in that regard. Inspiring, well, I've talked about his inspiration. So he's got all the credentials to be a captain. It'll get tougher for him. I mean, it's not all going to go along like this, but he'll be good. He'll be a good captain. And it's interesting that they didn't win at the SCG. To me, you learn a hell of a lot more from your losses than you ever learn from your wins. Why? Simple. Because if you win, you usually do a lot of things right. If you struggle a bit, that's where you see a few things go wrong. Okay, you see them go wrong. Maybe I can do that different next time. Yeah,
I thought Pat had a terrific day 5, to be totally honest. I thought he marshalled the troops very well, and I liked the way he used Nathan Lyon. The SCG pitch to me is not the pitch it used to be. It's not a raging turner. Balls aren't going up and down like they used to towards the end of a game, but he used them all in short bursts. He didn't just plug Nathan Lyon in and say, well, you're going to have to win us the game. He used him at various times, got a couple of wickets, bowled Smith, bowled Labuschagne, tried various things, rotated his bowlers really well. My only query has been that 4th night, I would have liked Australia just to be a little bit more urgent with the bat. Maybe say when they got to the lead of, say, about 270, 280, say, righto boys, we don't want any more than 100 more runs. We want them ASAP, and just a little bit more urgency. But apart from that, I thought his captaincy was very, very good. Looking at Australia's side, they said there's a lot of positives to talk about. Looking at Hobart, what do you think about their bowling lineup? They've got Jai Richardson, who I'm sure will be champing at the bit to get back in and bowl in the day and night test match. The report is on Mitchell Starc that he's probably going to play, although he looked a bit sore in that day 5 of the SCG. What do you see from the Australian bowling lineup? Scotty Boland has obviously made a terrific start also. What do you think you're going to see from Australia in the Hobart test match in line of their bowling?
Well, I think you'll see plenty of pace bowling. Now, Mitchell Starc, you know, all you need to say to Mitchell is, mate, the lights will be on. And I think he'll say, I'm there. You know, you can... And I think you can listen to too much outside stuff. You've got, well, Mitchell Starc is a classic example. He's a senior bowler. He's got nearly 300 test wickets. I go to Mitchell and say, mate, you know how to get through a 5-day game. Will you get through this one? And if he says yes, he's in the team. And if some medical bloke comes up to me, I'm going to say, mate, go talk to someone else. Don't talk to me. I don't want to hear from you. You know, with Jai Richardson, with Michael Neser, with Scott Boland, they're young bowlers. you handle them a bit differently. But senior guys, in my opinion, Mitchell Stark's there. Well, Pat Cummins will be there because he's captain and he knows what to do. I would think Scott Boland's probably going to struggle because of he's got an injury problem. Jai Richardson should get the first crack, and if Jai Richardson's not saying, mate, the lights will be on, I'll be there. There's something wrong with him as well.
What about Scott Boland though? 2 test matches, averaging under 9 with the ball. Quite extraordinary, really. I think his first effort was 1 for 48 at the MCG, and I'll be honest, I thought, well, that's probably his role. He's going to keep it tight, get you 2 or 3 fors, and he gets 6 for 7, picks up 4 for and 3 for in Sydney. So it's going to be hard to leave him out if he's fit.
Oh yeah, but again, what are you paying selectors for? You're paying them for tough decisions. Now, Scott Boland, I'm in your camp. I think he's a steady Sheffield Shield bowler who bowls good line and length. They said, right, we need him for Melbourne, we need him for Sydney. I think that was probably pretty good selection. If the other guys were injured, makes it an even better selection. But, you know, Jai Richardson's got to get a chance. I mean, he's... and again, you're looking ahead at Jai Richardson because he's a youngish guy, he's quick, he can swing the ball out. I thought he bowled pretty well in the game that he played. If Scott Boland's in any doubt at all, I'd have Richardson in there.
So, Stark, Hazelwood, Cummins.
No, Stark, Cummins...
No, I'm just saying those three, they're automatic selections if they're all fit. Obviously, Hazelwood's not. But if they say they're fit and ready to go, they're in. They're still our number 1 bowling attack.
Got to be. You know, I mean, Hazelwood's a damn good bowler.
Oh, absolutely.
And again, you know, he reminds me a lot of McGrath in that he's just got a repeatable action. It's not going to go wrong. And doesn't matter where you bowl him in England, bowl him in Pakistan. You know, India's can be difficult, but wherever you play Hazelwood, he's not going to let you down. So he's in the top 3. Jai Richardson is next in line.
Well, my record on this show is not so good. I think on our first show here, I had to do a prediction. And I said that Josh Hazelwood was going to be the man with the most wickets in the series. I think he's number 5 or 6 now in the Australian bowling lineup, behind Green, behind obviously Lyon, behind Boland, Stark, Cummins. So yeah, that just shows you it's very, very difficult to take wickets when you're not on the field. But I agree. I think once Hazelwood's fit enough to play, he certainly plays. England have got a slightly different problem. They haven't got too many resources. They're trying to find resources. Wood's got a bad foot from that Yorker he faced the other day. They've got obviously Anderson and Broad, who I think are both fit, but getting towards the end of their careers. Do they look at this test match to go back to some of these younger guys, or do they play what they think is still their best attack for this final test?
Well, they haven't played their best side whole tour. You know, I mean, they've had Folkes sitting in England. Now, Folkes is your best wicketkeeper, and he can bat. Now England get too carried away with technique. I mean, Crawley, to me, is a classic example. Crawley can really play. I look at Crawley and I see, now there's a future England batsman, you know, who could be there for 10 years because he can really play. And he can hurt you. I mean, you know as a captain, the guys who keep you awake at night are the fellas who can score big scores and get them quickly.
I think 77 off 100 balls the other day.
And he'll do that. He'll do that regularly, and he'll hit a lot of boundaries because he's a good player. Now, I think England were probably talking to him about technique. If I'd have been Crawley, I said, mate, go take your technique and put it over in the corner. Now, get my confidence back up. You know, that's what England needed to do. Pope, I think they've got to do the same thing with Pope. Now, Bess, you know, everyone says he bowled really badly in England. He's a competitor. Jack Leach is not a competitor. Jack Leach is not a test bowler. He's frightened stiff being on the field. Dom Bess, I think, wants to be there. He's a competitor. You know, his confidence is down at the moment. The other guys they've got to look at are Parkinson and Crane because they're attacking bowlers. But England looked the wrong way at spin bowlers. They've got Leach there. Oh, he can tie down an end and keep it tight for the rubbish. You've got to get wickets at both ends.
I agree.
I don't give a continental what test match you're playing. If you're not trying to get wickets at 2 ends, then you're doing something wrong. So, the first thing for England is pick their best side. They haven't got close to doing that. Their bowling attack, they've got a good bowling attack for England. Now, where I do have sympathy for them is the side that they would have brought to Australia would have had Jofra Archer, would have had Marcus Wood, and would have had Stone, the quickie. Now, if they've got three genuine quick blokes, plus they've got Anderson, they've got Broad, they've got Robinson, Overton's in there somewhere. But so they've got some good blokes they can spread around, but they've got that pace. Now, everybody knows that in Australia, pace can win you some games. So they didn't have two of those three. That was a problem for them. Everyone jumps up and down about the Duke's ball and the Kookaburra ball. It's a cricket ball to me.
Yep.
You know, it's coming down. Play what's coming down. If it's swinging in, it's an in-swinger. If it's swinging out, it's an out-swinger. Play it.
Yep.
Don't say, oh, I'm looking at the shine, which way is it going to swing? All you're doing there is trying to predict which way it'll go, and if it doesn't go that way, what are you doing then? Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So I think, but will England do that? Will they sort of cut way back on the technique? And no. And, you know, they haven't got the right structure. I mean, Silverwood is, to me, he's not a test coach. Joe Root is he's not a cricket captain. Don't worry about a test captain. He's not a cricket captain. So now, who wants the job? Does Ben Stokes is saying all the things to support Joe. Does he want the job? If he's got any brains, he's probably going to say no, because
it's a tough one at the moment.
Oh, it's a poison chalice.
Yeah.
But he's the one man with the credentials to do the job.
Yep.
Being an aggressive cricketer doesn't make you a good aggressive captain, but it can.
It can help, yeah.
So England have got a lot of things to do, but the first thing they've got to do is sort out captaincy, and Joe's not their man. Then they've got to pick the best team. They're not doing that, and they've got to also sort out their system outside the captaincy. Yeah. They haven't got the right system.
Yeah, I think your point about not having Archer and Ollie Stone was certainly a huge blow for England, but as you say, I think they've got greater problems than that. One of the more pressing issues for them, to me, you talked about Folkes, who you would have had as the keeper, and you've said that on this show many times, but he's not here. Who do you think will keep in Hobart? They've got Bairstow, they've got Pope, and they've now added Sam Billings to their squad. Who do you think will get the gloves for England come Hobart?
Well, Bairstow's a better keeper than Butler. You know, I mean, if they were going to send folks home and not include him, well, then in my book, Bairstow's got to keep because he's better than Butler. They didn't do that. Probably can't keep Bairstow now. I mean, I'd like to see him in the side as a batsman if he can do it, but he's got a crook thumb, which would probably stop the keeping. I thought Pope was miles in front of Butler. He moved his feet. His footwork.
He took some good catches.
He did a damn good job.
Marcus Harris, the catch he took off him was a very good catch.
Yeah, but as you know, being put in as a replacement Test player compared with being a full-time Test player is a lot different. And I think England would be right to consider Pope as a batsman at the moment, not as a keeper. Which all brings you down to Billings. Now, if they've made him drive down from the Gold Coast to Sydney, and then he's got to isolate, and then you pick him as a drink waiter, well...
That wouldn't surprise you?
Oh, no, it wouldn't, but if I was Billings, I'd be pretty cranky.
Pretty upset about that.
Yeah.
All right, well, I've got to move on, chaps. I've got to move on to my chin music for this week, and my chin music actually is going to be to the England bowling brigade in general. I agree they think too negatively, and I think they have used Jack Leach far too negatively in the series, but he did bowl better in the second innings. But my chin music goes to the quicks, because I look at the scores so far. England have only bowled Australia out twice in this series. They didn't bowl Australia out in either innings of Adelaide, and they didn't bowl Australia out in either innings of Sydney. And the only time they really have bowled out Australia out for a reasonable total was at the MCG, where they made 267 Australia and didn't bat again because they won the game outright. So England's bowling, we've talked a lot about their batting and there's too much technique and all that sort of stuff, but their bowling has been a real problem also because they're not bowling Australia out. So my cheer music for this week goes to the England Quicks. Whoever they decide to choose, if they go to their senior guys, it's time for them to make one big last effort to try and bowl Australia out and give their batting side side a chance to get in front in a test match. I don't necessarily see it happening, but that's my chin music for this week.
Well, good luck with that. And the England selectors. All right, the power rankings that I've gone with, I've been pretty consistent with David Warner. I think David Warner's a very important batsman for Australia, not just because he scores runs heavily, but he scores them quickly. He's probably a different player now. He doesn't score as quickly, but if he gets going, he wins you the game in a hurry. Pat Cummins is obvious. I think he's the best bowler in Australia. Plus, he's inspirational, and he's a good captain. Mitchell Starc, well, he's got a terrific record at night, and this is a day-night test in Hobart, and I think he'll be really important. Labuschagne at number 3. Number 3 is an important spot. Don't believe all the rubbish you read about number 3. If you don't want to open, it's the best place in the world to bat, and he's another changed batsman, but I think he does a good job at 3, and I'm not convinced that England have got a clue how to get him out. And finally, I've got Joe Root at number 5 because England have got to have someone there. He's their best batsman by a mile, and in fact, Joe's a very good batsman, but he's not a captain.
Yeah, all right. Obviously, a lot of responsibility on Joe Root. Just very quickly, last one. A quick prediction for Hobart. Australia by how many?
By a mile.
By a mile.
Especially under lights. I think that'll really show the big difference between the two teams.
Absolutely. Well, thanks, Ian Chappell, for your time today, and I hope you've enjoyed our wrap with the SCG and our thoughts on the Hobart Test match. Thanks for your company. Bye for now.